Sure, no problem. Let me just get it.
Welcome to Shifting from Grudge to Grit, Grace, and Gratitude. And we have some very special guests with us today. And because I'm out of breath running up and down the stairs, I have asked my co-host, Jamila, to please read the bio if she accesses it quicker than me.
Sure. Welcome, everyone, and especially to our lovely guests. We've been long awaiting you to come and join us, Sumaya and Anika. Thank you so much for spending this hour with us. And hi, Anisa. Lovely to see you after this crazy week.
It has been an energetically taxing week. We were talking about that just before. And I think we'll tap into some of that in the conversation around energetically how we can be depleted based on our lives, right? So welcome, Sumaya, and welcome, Anika. So, please say hello first, and then Jamila will read your bio, Sumaya.
Hi, thank you, Anisa and Jamila, and thank you for the wonderful opportunity to be on your show as a guest today. It's really an absolute honor to share this platform with you amazing ladies, and also to Anika for coming along and being an amazing support. And Anika's also got a wonderful story that I'm sure you're going to hear later on the show. Thank you.
Thanks. Anika, we'll hear from you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and listeners and viewers. Thank you to Anisa and Jamila for inviting me alongside Sister Sumaya to be on this platform today and share the amazing information that we'll be sharing with everybody today. Graciously accept the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get on with this bio that Sumaya has so graciously sent to us. What happens when healing meets faith, sisterhood, and sacred intention? So we're so honored, Sumaya, to have you here. Sumaya Hoosain, who is a dedicated mental health and relationship wellness practitioner with over a decade of experience, a counselor, radio guest expert, and founder of the Healing in Sacred Sisterhood movement. Sumaya is known for her compassionate approach that integrates Islamic psychology, embodied practices, and spiritual wellness. So in this episode, we explore how safe, spiritually anchored spaces can transform women's lives, helping them to release deep emotional wounds, reclaim their sense of wholeness, and rise in emotional and spiritual resilience. Sumaya shares the inspiration beside her bespoke retreats and the powerful impact of communal healing rooted in trust, divine remembrance, and shared values. Wow, that's quite an impressive bio, Sumaya. And I'm just so excited. I mean, Anisa's always spoken about the Sacred Sisterhood right from the get-go, from the time that I met you, Anisa. And I'm so glad. Well, I'm actually surprised that we didn't do this much sooner in our journey, but I'm so happy to have you here and truly excited to hear your story and more about the Sacred Sisterhood.
Absolutely. I'm excited. To share our story, our amazing story with the audience and actually with the world. And today, Sacred Sisterhood is really stepping up and stepping out. And so it's a historical moment for us, Jamila and Anisa. And we're excited to be here and excited to share whatever you need to know or whatever you're curious to ask about Sacred Sisterhood.
Yeah, maybe you can share with us what led you to start, the healing and to start this movement. Is there like a personal moment, maybe perhaps that sparked it all?
So I think just reflecting. In fact, I was reflecting on that just before we came on the show today. And interestingly, I feel that what sparked this was, it's often our greatest pain leads us to our growth and our purpose. And through my own personal experience as a young lady, child growing up, and seeing how we as women sometimes share spaces with family members or with girlfriends at school, how those spaces can also, despite us, always looking at the opposite gender and saying, we get out a lot of pain from the opposite gender as females, but many times that pain comes from females. And so through my own personal experience, being in spaces, being a community wellness practitioner as well, and recognizing that people need safe spaces to heal. And so through my experience, through my own personal journey, I think I've always felt guided by my intuition. And so one day I was meditating and I came out of my meditation, and in the meditation, I actually saw a circle of women. And when I came out of my meditation, I said to my husband, this is what I've got to do. I've got to start, because I saw in this meditation a circle of women. And I said, Bismillah, this is what I'm going to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I put myself out there, and through the grace of God, through the grace of Allah, I had intended for the circle to be about 12 women, because I thought this is how we'll start off. And from the Jamila and Anisa, things have just grown from the first circle. And we are almost in our third year now. And the Sacred Sisterhood programs and retreats has served almost, if not more than 60 women through various programs. We are also we've just launched our 9th retreat last night. So if I could just sum it up, in essence, I feel personally that this pain, or this discomfort that I felt, it's the saying that goes, be the change that you want to see in the world. And so in my view, Sacred Sisterhood is just that. It's a space that not only myself, but many of the sisters in the sisterhood have nurtured over the years. A space where we share. It's a space that is non-judgmental. It's a space of complete love, acceptance, kindness, and through holding that space for the sisters, it's a space where I've witnessed many ladies transform. In fact, I often say to them, I don't recognize you anymore. We have to rename you. We have to rename you, because you are not the same people that I know from 3 years or 2 years ago. So it's been phenomenal just to be a witness and just to walk alongside these amazing women, because I say to them, Sacred Sisterhood is your space. You are cultivating. You are a part of this. You are nurturing this space. And so it's just beautiful, just the love and the care and the consideration and the kindness that is modeled in that space of unity and acceptance. And so maybe I'm a little biased in saying, talking about my experience, and as a facilitator or the founder of the Sacred Sisterhood. And often I say this to Anisa, because Anisa is also one of my sacred sisters. We also met through Sacred Sisterhood. And I say to her, it's sometimes very difficult for me to share what Sacred Sisterhood is all about, because it almost feels biased, like it's coming from my personal view around what Sacred Sisterhood is all about. And hence me saying that I always prefer the sisters from the group to share what their experience has been. I hope that answers your question, Jamila.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just so profound, like about women who are getting together with a specific intention in mind. It's
Yes.
just so encouraging, inspiring, motivating. Anissa, can you
Yes.
tell us, like from your experience, how is it that you came into contact with Sumaya? Because I mean, if I had not known you or met you, I wouldn't know about the Sacred Sisterhood, right? So
Yeah.
maybe share with us how you were introduced to it and what your journey was in meeting Sumaya and the rest of the ladies.
With pleasure. I feel like I'm playing a dual role here today, but that's okay because that was inevitable. So when I met Sumaya, she called herself the love alchemist, and I called myself the coaching alchemist, and we were both attending another retreat. I think it was 3 years ago. It's coming up for 3 years this year.
4 years. 4 years,
4
Anissa.
years.
4.
Okay, 4 years actually. Where does the time go? But anyway, so I was in this transition phase in my life where I was contemplating divorce and going to this retreat thinking I'm going to discover the answers at the retreat, and I didn't. I, with respect to the previous host that hosted it, she was very clear, that previous host, that that's not an answer you're going to get there. You need to really look deeply within yourself. But then, this is a funny story, but I'm going to share it. One of our ladies, and that we shared in this villa, four of us in one villa, and I remember this. My person was struggling with a bit of sleep apnea, and I decided I'm not going to go and sleep there. I'm going upstairs, and Sumaya decides to, literally and figuratively, we always joke about this, come and light my fire, because I was on this beautiful couch and she lit the fire for me, and we ended up talking, and the connection was so profound that I felt heard and understood and witnessed from a place of non-judgment, and truly almost felt like I've known her my whole life and we were meant to cross paths. But fast forwarding, after the retreat, I sent her a message and I said, well, you a therapist. My ex at the time said, I need to go and do the healing work, and I'm the problem, as they always do. And he then suggested, why don't I first go and see somebody and before I make the final decision? I called her up. I said, okay, let's do some sessions and we can take it from there. And the rest was history. And then we met in that way, where she supported me on a transition phase within my healing journey. And she then decided she was going to start her own retreats. And I'll never forget, her mom passed. And I thought, this lady ain't going to go forward with this retreat because she just had her mom pass. And when I saw her advertise it, I was like, really? You're still going ahead? And I felt called in that moment to say, I feel I need to come and hold space for you now. I don't know what I'm supposed to do for you. And I went over that weekend. I don't know what we did. I can't even remember, but we were putting it all together. And that's really how the journey started for me unfolding. And the spiritual aspects of it is what's keeping me there, along with the sisterhood. Because this is not like just going to a retreat over weekends and having fun and getting all the spoils and all the time away, or whether it's the massage. It is true intimate healing modalities across so many different modalities, with Sumaya facilitating it in a very balanced spiritual, Western and Islamic psychology basis. So that's all I'm going to share based on my experience. I do want to hand over to Anika, and whether you would be comfortable sharing some of your story. And we call this shifting from grudge to grit, grace, and gratitude. What was part of your hero's journey story that led you to Sister Sumaya, and why you are still in this space, and how you have come back home to yourself and evolved since then?
Oh, yes, thank you. I would love to share. My journey with Sumaya started, I would say, approximately 3 years ago. And I saw her coincidentally because my ex-husband at the time had recommended that, we go to couples therapy. And because, as you've mentioned, she was called the love alchemist, We found her first and foremost when we did our Google search one morning lying in bed. And he suggested that I think this is the person we should go to. Let's cut that story short. 8 months later, we divorced, and Sumaya ended up being my individual counsellor. And that's how my journey with her actually started. Where for the very first time in my life, I felt that I could actually be vulnerable to a point where I overcame my fear of trusting someone with my story. And Sumaya just held the most beautiful space for me to tap into parts of myself that I was really struggling to access, because I am on a journey of self-discovery, and I tried different modalities, healing modalities before then, and also types of one-on-one coaching and therapists, but it just didn't seem to work for me. And for the first time, someone held space for me so beautifully that I could feel the parts that were numb to me for so long. And I think throughout that journey with Sumaya as my individual consultant, also a counselor, the story of Sacred Sisterhood unraveled as little tidbits were shared with me, as we started becoming more closer to each other in our therapy sessions. And so I can say that I was there since the birthing of it, through her meditations, because I heard the excitement in her voice, and I became quite intrigued. And I thought to myself, if this woman can hold space for me um, through what I've just come through in the therapy sessions, then I would love to see what's going to unravel when there are other women who are probably just as fearful as I was to trust someone with a story. And so it came about that I joined the first Sacred Sisterhood, and the rest is history. I never turned back. The amount of love and compassion, vulnerability, non-judgment, and just the containment of the space is something that cannot be explained by words. It's something that needs to be felt. And I wish that every woman, and I hope that there would be something like this for men as well, can feel what it feels like to truly be as vulnerable as you've ever wished to be. And no one judges you in that moment. But not only that, they hold space for you to feel that huge emotion, or those huge emotions that you've never been brave enough to do on your own. So it's a powerful experience. There were major shifts, like Sumaya said. She probably sounds biased when she speaks about it, but from someone who has been inside and someone who's been observing from the outside as well, the women that are there today are surely not the same women that stepped in on the very first day when we had our first Sacred Sisterhood meeting. They are strong, they are wise, they are confident, they are humble with a grace that's been endowed, I think, on them with the revelation that healing is possible, and that they've come from a dark space and moved so quickly with accelerated healing to a space where they can look back on that version of themselves and still want to give back to everyone else that still needs to join the sacred circle. So I'm in awe of that lady sitting over there with Sumaya and the work that she does. And I hope that this platform is going to send the message far and wide to those who really need to hear it. Yeah, that's me.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Anita.
Jamila, any questions on your side to that to that response, Jamila?
No, that's just so beautiful, just to be able um, to be in a space where you being heard, you being seen, that you matter. It's a longing that we all have within us, and
True.
most times it's a longing that isn't satisfied or met. So the fact that you've created this space for women, and Anika, as you said, I think men require it too, because we're all going through something, and whether they are not having that same experience, they should be educated on how to hold the space for us when we are going through it. So, I mean, for me, I think there's a huge need for that. But just that you've created the space where you can actually see the change in people, and you allow the space for people to show up real and raw as they are, to reconnect, not just with their emotions, but also from an Islamic perspective. So what I wanted to ask you is that you've integrated Islamic psychology into your work. Can you share with us like what that looks like in a practical day-to-day way for your clients?
Okay, so the first thing, Jamila, is understanding the self through the Quran and the Sunnah, because the self, the way we understand ourselves as Muslims, is a little different from the way the Western world understands or views the self. So as Muslims, we understand that we have a ruh, that is the soul. We have the nafs. We have the aql, which is the intellect. We have the body, which is the jism. You know, there's these different aspects of the human, and they are all integrated, right? And that is first and foremost, we need to understand who we are, you know, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, how God created us. We also understand that before we came into the realm of the world, of this world that we are living in currently, the dunya, as we would say, we were in the realm, in a previous realm, right? The Quran and the Hadith testifies to that. And that we've come into this realm, but we have, prior to us coming into this realm, we witnessed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? We experienced His majesty, because the Quran tells us that Allah blew His ruh, He blew His spirit into us. He blew, and so just if we think of somebody blowing into you, it's a very intimate experience. It's a very close experience, right? And so from there, we understand that, you know, we come from Allah, we come from God. We are in this realm of the dunya. We are wayfarers. We are traveling through this world. We are grateful if God gives us 60, 70 or 80 years, probably, you know, and then we will go into another realm, right? So that in and of itself is very different from Western psychology. Also, the Quran tells us that we will be tested. You know, we will be tested with fear. We will be tested with our wealth. We will be tested with our children. So we understand that these tests or these experiences are actually natural and normal, and they're not. So for you to have some anxiety, it's not a pathology that you have anxiety. It's part of what would be normal as a human experience, and that makes it a little different from Western framework. This is just a few of the highlights that I'm going to be giving you. And so from there, because there's a different framework, because there's a different understanding of who we are as humans and what our purpose is in this world, I facilitate, different kinds of workshops or different kinds of retreats. So, for example, and one retreat sort of just builds onto the other. Initially, when I started off, I kept it very, very broad, because it's important to meet people where they are at. And I also had to feel into what my community needed. And so at the very early stages, I kept it very broad. We looked at a lot of body-based therapy, such as yoga, such as breath work, such as acupuncture, afia healing, conscious movement and dance, sound healing. So it was very broad and holistic. But within the first circle, I recognized that every single sister out of the 12 sisters that were in the circle, each one, when they spoke, what came up very profoundly was their relationship with their mothers. So and that was very, very interesting and very insightful. So they basically, the sisters or the clients in the group, they guided me as to the next step that I needed to take. And that was healing the mother wound. And we did a big retreat out in Tilbach, January 2023, where we unpacked what the mother wound was. I did about a 13-part series on Radio 786 discussing and really, you know, expanding on what the mother wound is, and also various modalities that we facilitated at the actual retreat with regards to the mother wound. And then we also understand that within the cultural Islamic context, that the saying that goes that Jannah lies under the feet of the mother. But how do we as Muslim women, having perhaps experienced maybe a neglect or an abuse by your mother, how do you actually manage that? And what does Islam say about that? And so we went on to expand and created a space for us to all understand that, where we were all growing and learning and healing from unpacking and understanding the mother wound, as we would call it, I don't know if that answers your question, if you'd like me to expand on something else further, Jamila.
No, absolutely. That for sure answers my question. It's so interesting about the mother wound, okay, because I think that most of a lot of us can relate to that. But what about the father and the role of that the father plays, in how we express ourselves as human beings in our behaviors, in the anxieties that we have, in the issues that we face? What about that? Because, more and more, as I speak to a lot of women, this is where it also stems from, all of their problems and issues from that father wound, whether it's something, whether you were close to your dad, whether you were not close, it has repercussions later on in your life. Have you experienced this with some of the women that have come through in your circles? And what can you share with us about that?
Absolutely. So I do believe that it's balanced, that any child, born into this world, that we're born into fitra, we're born with this natural essence of who we are, and through, the way we were parented, or through society, we experience certain traumas. It could come from both our parents, or just people that we have engaged with over time. But essentially, a child needs both mother energy and father energy. It's important. And the sad reality of us living in South Africa, and many of us don't know this, but I'm talking about stats going back 15 years, where we recognize through research that more than 65% of children in South Africa grow up without a father. And so the father wound is very, very deep. And as a result of that, a huge responsibility is actually put on the mothers and on women. And I think somehow or the other, we tend to, on some level, the mother takes a lot of slack, because everything is actually put on the mother, because there is this disparity, within our community, within society. So because there's this absent father, and he's actually not around, the impact comes from the mother, because the mother's got to be both mother and father most times to her children. And this is what we find in our circles as well. So definitely the father wound is also an area that greatly impacts many, all of our lives. If I speak from my own personal experience, if I have to look at both my mother and my father, I would say my deeper wound was my father wound. There's certain decisions that I made with my life was based on the void that I felt from my father. And if I go back intergenerationally, I discovered that my mom too didn't have that love and nurturing from her father. So it actually becomes an intergenerational wound without us even realizing, how deep that it impacts us,
Yeah.
But for women actually, I would say a young lady growing up And the research is telling us this, that, if she has her father's support, love, nurturance, and guidance, this is what it takes for women to become phenomenal. When you have somebody strong and powerful, and you know that you can trust, you can lean into those broad shoulders, which is this father of yours, it's just phenomenal. Phenomenal things happen. I truly believe that if more women actually have that support of the father, there's major transformations that will happen in so many of our lives.
I just want to come in here because there's a beautiful comment there from Sharifa van der Voort. She's on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to join one of your retreats. We'll never forget that day I spent with you. I don't know who she is, but thank you for that beautiful comment. It was very well received. I think, from my own experience with Sumaya, we do try and expand Sacred Sisterhood, and whether it is a sister who's walked the journey, invite another sister to come and join, whether it's a one-day thing where you're slowly immersing somebody into that environment, and then the invitation's there for them to join again. But I want to come back to Jamila's question around the father wound and your response to that, and redirect this back to Anika, who's also a single mom, and how the absence of a father figure with our own children. I'm not sure, Anika, if you've had a father figure in your life. I certainly had none for most of my life. And how that plays out in us as women being so in our masculine, and that we're not nurturing. We are actually quite aggressively harsh at times because we didn't know how else to be, because we didn't have the examples that Sumaya is alluding to. So Anika, can you give us from your experience as now also a participant in these retreats, and how multifaceted the healing has been, whether you came for one purpose around contemplating divorce, and how that has evolved into the continuous healing journey for you that now covered multiple areas or aspects of your life?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Actually, I'm going to start off by speaking about the father wound. And myself, my father wasn't around. I grew up without a dad, and I've raised my kids for the most part of their life also without their father in their life. And I can say in an energetic aspect, because I'm an energy practitioner as well, so I look at modalities from an energetic perspective as well, that the female definitely needs to overcompensate for the lack of the man, the masculine energy. And we end up overexpending ourselves in roles that shouldn't be ours, at least not consistently. We can tap into it when we really do need it, but as a single mother or a female that grew up without a father, you tap into your masculine more than what you should, more than what is healthy for you as a female. You should be operating within a feminine energy most of the time. So even if it doesn't have a direct result on the child where the father is absent, at some point and across time, the mother taking on the impact of the missing father usually does have an impact on the child, because she's operating from a space of being in a masculine all the time. And therefore, the child is not getting the nurturing that they require from the mother, who is supposed to be in a sacred feminine space most of the time. So it's quite hard, and it's a cycle that goes unbroken and often unnoticed. And because I work in early childhood development and I own an ECD center, I see this unfolding before my very eyes on a daily basis, where I can see the kids who are struggling with single moms in their home, who have absolutely no support from the fathers or from their families, and how consistently they have to operate within their masculine role and within their masculine energy, therefore not being able to give the kids and meet the needs that they require from a mother who is healthy and operating within a feminine, if that makes any sense to everybody. So that's my take on the father wound. It's quite deep, and it's not spoken about enough. Definitely not dissected and discussed, and the spotlight is definitely not big enough on that topic. The second part of your question is, I think what's happened to me is that my mind has has shifted and expanded to such an extent that I see the unlimited potential of us as human beings actually opening ourselves up to the different kinds of healing modalities there are out there. Simply because we're not one-dimensional creatures. We are holistic beings, and therefore, whatever impact the trauma has on us, whichever depth the trauma is, or how nuanced it may be, because we know that traumas can happen in any way and form. It's for us to recognize that it's not just a one-time affair or a once-off approach that we need to use to actually heal ourselves when the trauma is inflicted on our bodies or our energy or our, mind or heart, wherever the space may be. And what Sacred Sisterhood has helped me to achieve is, just to give you some context, I started off as a preschool principal. I'm now a holistic wellness practitioner who specializes in a number of healing modalities. Um, and it's given me great joy to be able to share that gift with everybody else, simply because Sacred Sisterhood helped me discover that. And through that, I'm able to assist others in the same way. So I'm eternally grateful for having my mind blown wide open with that concept and understanding us as human beings on a deeper level and with so much more understanding. It's a beautiful journey that I've been on, and I'm very grateful for the process. Thank you.
Anissa, are you happy with that response? I know I certainly was.
I'm
And
celebrating, I want to say just one thing, Jamila. Like, I'm celebrating Anika because the work she's doing in before she even evolved and came back home to the sovereign part of herself, she was already doing consciousness work. She was already called to a space that was to serve and to heal in the very places that is so profound with little kids. So I just want to honor her today here because I was that little kid, and I
Mm.
wish that there were centers and humans like yourself doing the work you're doing with kids. So it is so underrated and it's so underestimated in terms of what the impact is that you are doing. And I just want to say that if Sacred Sisterhood has been a catalyst for you to even deepen that work and to study psychology now and to be of better service to that space and energy healing to any other people outside of the early childhood. So Jamila, she's not just touching the kids, she's also touching the parents because she does conscious parenting workshops. So the magnitude of what Sacred Sisterhood does is it introduces you back to yourself, to your sovereign self. And what it does is it says, but you are deserving of stepping into that power again. And that you have always been designed for this greater purpose. So, Anika, I know you're not selling yourself here or whatever, and I'm you or Sumaya, but I'm always in awe of the work that you're doing.
Thank you so
And
much.
I'm very grateful to cross paths with you.
Absolutely.
no, that's
Excellent.
absolutely
you.
incredible. And just to think, Sumaya, you've made this by you starting this movement. You're highlighting the strength of so many other women that they have, right? And women who have experienced pain and turned that into power and turned that into empowerment for others as well, because that's actually what you've done. You've taken these difficult challenges and spaces in your life in which you've encountered so much trauma and so much pain, but you've taken that and you've turned it into such a positive, and I can see that from both you women. So I do also applaud you on this. And it certainly isn't an easy thing to do, because a lot of times when you go through these challenges, all you want to do is sit in a space of blame, or ask, why me, or become the victim in this. Very seldom do
Yes.
people take, the situation the bull by the horn, so to speak, and turn the whole
Yes.
dynamic around. And like I said, make it something positive and empower someone in your space. And you seem to, well, all three of you seem to have done this because of the effect that you have, amongst those around you and those who are meeting you and still to meet you. So may I just,
Absolutely.
I want to move the conversation a little bit more around faith and
Yes.
maybe open this up to all three of you. And what role does faith play in helping women become more emotionally resilient, especially when facing deep personal pain or relational trauma? And how can women begin to move from emotional overwhelm to a place of grounded spiritual strength? And I ask you this
Mhm.
question because there are two times in my life where I've gone through something really traumatic in my life. The one was when I had lost my mum, and
Mhm.
I remember just being so aggressive and angry and rebellious and resistant
Mhm.
towards God,
Mhm.
because I thought, how could you do this to me? Why would you do
Yeah.
this to me? You know?
Mhm.
Um, and the other time that I felt this was when I was going through my divorce. And Anika, you all know what it's like to be a divorced woman. I don't want to say in the Muslim community, because I'm sure that women in all communities do experience
True.
some sort of, gosh, how would you describe it? I don't even know how to describe the
Mm.
experience that you have as a woman, where you are sometimes
Alienated. Yes.
Yes.
alienated, where people think that they can take advantage
Stigmatized.
of you. And
Yes.
again, you find yourself in this situation. And, Alhamdulillah, I found my way back to Allah, and my faith is stronger than ever, but it doesn't mean that it isn't questioned.
Sure.
So, yeah, just if you could speak to us about, that
Sure.
emotional resilience and how that ties in with the faith that you have.
So, Jamila, I think, it's important to meet people where they are at. I think it's important to to navigate wisely and to know where the person's at. Um, I feel that everybody that has experienced some form of trauma, grief, or crisis, whatever they are in, it is essential that people need to feel heard. They need to feel understood. There's a part. This I believe that there's pathways to healing, right? Um, and one needs to see where the person's at, because I do feel that there's a purging process where people are in pain and all they're needing is just for you to hold space and to listen and to be able to feel what their pain is about and to understand that and to perhaps articulate that for them. And sometimes that can take a few sessions or a few circles before the purging happens. You cannot give medicine to somebody who's purging. The purge needs to first happen. The purging process needs to happen first, and then you actually assess. You get to see where this person's at, and then you slowly start talking about understanding. Their understanding around faith, and slowly weaving that into the conversation. Is essentially what I found is that once people are connected, it's helping them really connect back to faith, back to the divine, back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a gentle, loving way. And once you're able to navigate and walk alongside that person, you know, they get to experience the light. But I do believe it is a process, and one needs to be patient. You cannot be, sort of in a very dogmatic way, being pushing medicine down somebody's throat when they're not yet ready to receive it. So it's wisdom, it's discernment, it's a process, it's patience, and slowly, as you offer the person that space, they start to trust you. They feel, because they actually know what they need. People generally know what they need, and once they establish that, you automatically see that they start coming back to their self. They start coming back to the essence of who they are, and the essence of who we are is divine. So they come back naturally to their own divinity and to their faith.
Anissa, any comments on that or shared
Yes,
experience
yes.
in what I just also asked Sumaya to explain?
I just want to share something from my, so you'll see Sumaya is in hijab. She's always in hijab. She always wears the proper dress code in terms of, and there's many other women, and there are many other women extremely learned in the Arabic text of our faith. Me having been raised in a home that was not anything of the sorts and having to find that for myself, I only have a limited Arabic kind of exposure or understanding or being able to do recitation. And why I'm sharing this, because this is the importance of the Sacred Sisterhood and that holding of that psychological safety that you feel and the trust that you feel. There is absolutely no judgment whether you're coming there in the full hijab dress code, whether you're coming there broken from molestation to divorce to, there's so much of the different traumas that we have gone through. And yet, what is the beautiful essence that Sumaya has, as much as she's extremely learned, she brings it down to an understanding and a belonging, a feeling of belonging, that it doesn't matter if you're not well versed in Arabic. It depends on your connection with your creator. It's not symbolically what you look like, but it's about reconnecting and cultivating that connection through that love alchemist that she spoke about. I could never understand what she meant by that, but the love and the alchemy that she, creates for others to feel is in that divinity within ourselves, and that it doesn't matter if it's in Arabic or English or Afrikaans or whatever it needs to be. And whilst we start from a faith perspective, and whether it was the mother wound, whether it was healing your heart through the 99 sacred names of the Almighty, it didn't matter what it was called or labeled as the retreat. It was about reestablishing your connection and how you will sabotage in the Islamic dialect would be your nafs. How are we likely to sabotage? But it was never about shaming those saboteurs in ourselves or our nafs. What she's done is to be able to blend the Western psychology, Islamic psychology, as well as her own lived experiences, because she's very raw and humble in those sessions where she comes and she says, I've walked this journey. So returning to faith for me has been the one thing that I go back each time, and healing is not linear. I still get triggered. I might be of service to those in my own work that I do, and like Anika as well. But it's not just about that healing. It's about the faith and staying strong and robust within that becomes the holding, because I think we all want to empower others, and the empowerment comes through the faith. And that's really my personal experience of it. And then one last thing from my side is that I don't come from a family. And so what Sacred Sisterhood has given me so beautifully, I don't have sisters. I have sisters and brothers, but it's an estranged relationship for the most part. And so when I meet these sisters, I have mothers, I have aunts, I have new sisters. And it's such a blessing because sometimes our own generational blood relative family, we feel so distant from. And that sense of belonging and love and unconditional acceptance is what I found in Sacred Sisterhood. So whether my healing has progressed to a more optimal, healthy level, it's the faith and the sisterhood that I go back for each time.
Shukran, Anisa. Shukran so much. Jamila, I just wanted to add something, if I may, please.
Sure.
Because I think there's one part that I think is important to mention, that in Arabic, in the Quran, Allah speaks to us as insan. The word insan is human, but it's the plural of human. And when we look at the word insan and we break it down in the Arabic etymology, and we get to the root of insan, we get the word break it down. You get these two fundamental words that the scholars speak of. Is the one is nisyan, which means to be forgetful, essentially indicating that we forgot where we came from. So our essence is to forget, and hence we need to be reminders to each other. And the other word is uns, and uns means intimate, an intimate relational social being. So in our essence of who we are, our nature of who we are as human beings is relational, social, intimate beings. And so when this fundamental part of ourselves hasn't been adequately nurtured, right? There is this void, this need to be, we need to belong, we need to feel loved, we need to feel nurtured. And I think this is what we aspire to achieve in Sacred Sisterhood, a sense of belonging, a sense of nurturing. And that's why I call it the Sacred Sisterhood medicine, because, if we don't receive it, if there's neglect or there's abuse, it's a trauma, then would the relational side of it not be medicine? Because that is where you can actually heal that trauma or that wound or that void, so to speak. And so this is what we're trying to essentially achieve in Sacred Sisterhood.
Like you said, it's just innately we are social beings and we want to be a part of a community. And
Yes.
Anisa, yes, we may have grown up in families that are united and supported, but a lot of us haven't grown up in that way. Or you might have, but then circumstances happen and you experience certain things in your life where that's taken away from you. And this happens in divorce, like we say, we become alienated. So what you've created is something so remarkable and something so needed, because people that have come from these situations are often met with lots of judgment. And to be able to find a circle or a community where you are welcomed, irrespective of what your past experience might be or your present experience is not something that should be taken lightly. Because it has so many repercussions on who you are and the life that you lead. When you go through these type of situations, it's very difficult for you to trust people or to want to integrate yourself, in different communities. And as a result, you tend to isolate yourself, which is so unhealthy for you, but not just for you, but for moms. it has a direct implication on your children. So you change that whole dynamic, and I have to just let you know again about what an incredible thing this is. And that no matter what, it might be 4 years later, it might be 10 years later, it might be 20 years later, but this is something that you yourself should not ever discount, because of the impact that you are having on so many different, not just the women in your circle, but on every dependent that they have, on every relationship that they have going forward. And I say this to you because I wish that I had something like this. I wish that I had it when I was going through my issues in my marriage. I wish that I had it when I had made the decision to divorce, or I wish I had it when I found myself, in this corporate world and I didn't know how to navigate through it because I hadn't had much experience before. So there's so many different women that I know you would have impacted, in your journey and in creating this, circle, and how you use faith and Islamic psychology to be able to bring these women back to who they are is also something so incredible. Um, because it's so important in our lives to have that faith, to acknowledge who we are as part of, having divine within us, um, and that the divine, blew his breath into us. It's such beautiful, beautiful, acknowledgments for us to have, which then empower us in such an impactful way in how we live our lives going forward, because it gives you that confidence in knowing that I'm such a beautiful, perfect creation of something so much more than me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And last year we did a 6-month program, Jamila, an immersion of the heart, and healing with a journey from wounds to wisdom through the 99 beautiful names of Allah. And it was such a profound program, for women to be on a daily basis connecting with, for example, one divine name. We all immerse ourselves into that name. And so, for example, we take the name Al-Wadud, for example, the most loving, witnessing yourself as a loving, gentle, loving being, and witnessing love around you, and witnessing how loved you are, for example, and just internalizing that, and so many other names, divine names, immersing ourselves into that. It really created such a deep, profound connection. In fact, the ladies are so, whenever anything happens, for example, if they experience where they're feeling stuck, they would perhaps call on the name, Ya Jabbar, the one or feeling broken, the one who repairs, or if they need a pathway to open, they will call on Al Fatah, the one who opens up the path. So just connecting them to Allah, and making them realize that He is the source, and that you can call on Him by these beautiful names. They feel so much closer to Allah, to the divine. And it's just so beautiful, just to see how they've transformed over the last few years. It's phenomenal. So I think that is what inspires me, just witnessing and walking alongside them and just being part of their journey. It's an absolute honor just for me. It's the biggest gift, just to witness the divine, to witness Allah's majesty in each and every one of them. Essentially, you've got to remind people who they are. I think that is our job, to take them back home to themselves and to remind them who they truly are and how beautiful, what beautiful beings they are. Some of us weren't told this when we were growing up, that you are beautiful, that you are smart, that you are, you are the divine spark of God, of Allah, So if we can just mirror that back to people, to assist them in coming home, coming back to themselves, and recognizing just how very powerful they are, and that they have limitless potential, because we have all the seeds of those divine names inside of us. We just need to tap into the resources within ourselves, within our souls, and allow ourselves to water that part of ourselves in order for it to grow and expand.
So we have reached the top of the hour, and I suppose we could go on and on and on and on. But
Absolutely.
if you had to leave both Anika and Sumaya in terms of your closing comments, advice, guidance, direction, what would you leave our audience with today? And what would be that invitation? So I'll go to Anika first.
I think what I'd like to say is this is an invitation to find a family that is going to help you heal the wounds that you've always needed to heal without even knowing sometimes, and to find the family members and the support system that you actually need to heal those wounds, because it's going to take a spectrum of different kinds of people and environments for you to heal those wounds. And the invitation is open for you because there is a place where you can find this. So that's what I want to say now.
Anything else from you, Anika, before we go over to Sumaya? Anything that you're burning to share with our audience?
I think that once you step into the circle, you don't ever want to leave it. So come prepared for a lifelong journey, and also come prepared to find who you are and to find your purpose. Because I think, as Sumaya has mentioned, that's what it's all about. It's returning back to yourself. And when you return back to yourself, you find that divine spark. And that's actually what we're actually seeking, to find our way back home. And within that journey, also discover who you are and your purpose. And that's what my journey's been about. So I can attest to that. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Grateful, Anika. And we will invite you back because Jamila, she has quite a profound story to share. And because she's done the healing, I know that she's ready to share it with the world. So, Anika, this is your invitation to come back and share your actual story in the depths, so that people can truly see when you do step into that, to do the work, what it actually translates to.
Absolutely.
Sumaya,
Thank you.
Your turn. What's the invitation?
I'm going to leave our audience with these words. There's a saying, a hadith, that says, when you take one step towards Allah, He takes 10 steps towards you. When you walk towards Him, He runs towards you. And what I understand from that is that we all need to take that first step. And when you take that first step, magic happens, because it is essential and important for us to participate in our own healing process, our own healing journey, that we have to action things. It's easy to sit back, and I know that it's sometimes challenging to take that first step, but this is an invitation to love, to acceptance, to belonging, to something bigger than you could ever imagine. It's difficult to describe what Sacred Sisterhood is about on a video or on a podcast. It is something you've got to experience. I can sit here, and in the words of a very great teacher and scholar, Imam al-Ghazali, may Allah be pleased with him, he says that we can talk about the honey all day, the color of the honey and how sticky the honey is, and and I can tell you that the honey is sweet. However, if you have not tasted the honey, you would really not know what honey tastes like. And so I'd love to leave our listeners with that, to come and taste the honey and to come and experience what Sacred Sisterhood is all about. And I'm very grateful and pleased and deeply humbled, that we've launched our 9th retreat last night. It's going to be, it's titled Awaken the Woman of Purpose Within You. It's going to be at the Guinevere Farm in Tulbagh, and it is about finding your purpose. moving from pain to purpose to prosperity. And this is my invitation, and it is also my intention for all the ladies that are going to be on that journey, to find a greater purpose and to break through those barriers and the fears and the conditioning and all the things that lie in the way of us becoming. Sorry?
I'm getting goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
Yeah. Is there anything last that you want to actually add on to Sumaya? And then she's not sharing what the other intention is. We don't want to leave Sacred Sisterhood in the beautiful city of Cape Town. So Jamila, is there something that you might want to take on to run Sacred Sisterhood in your region? You know, how do we expand this if it's doing so well?
Absolutely. I think without having experienced it or tasted the honey as yet, just spending this hour with you both, Sumaya and Anika, you've shown us, or what I've learned from this is that sisterhood is not just a circle, it's a sanctuary. And healing, I think, when guided by faith, becomes more than just a process. It becomes that sacred return to ourselves. And you are providing those pathways for women to come back to their soul, you know, and that is so powerful. It really is so powerful. So yes, of course, I mean, like, you know, you've piqued my interest now to taste that honey and to expand the sisterhood beyond Cape Town, beyond the Cape Town region. And yeah, absolutely would love to just chat more to you guys about how we can do that.
Absolutely.
And
You're welcome, Jamila.
Yeah, and just expose more women to this, because it's unbelievable what you're doing. You know, the benefits of this and the lives that you will change just by providing this safe space for women to come and just be their true selves and to be vulnerable and know that they're safe doing it.
Absolutely. And this is my personal invitation to you, Jamila. The 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th of August, Women's Month.
Yes.
I'd love for you to come and join us in Cape Town, in Toba, to come and taste the honey.
Thank you. Thank you. That's well received, and I'm excited about it.
So thank you, ladies, for being here. Thank you for this opportunity to host you. Anika, you're going to be back. There's no doubt about it. And I look forward to seeing more of the other Sacred Sisters to come and share their journeys, because this is the platform where we're having that conversation to share raw, real, lived experiences, so that it's the catalyst for others to feel safe. So we're high level, shared everything today, but Anika, I really do want to see you back on again. And for our audience that's been listening in for the hour and 7 minutes, and we have to close off, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you again next week, same time. Grateful for your participation, and those that are from far and wide, like Toronto, and the regulars, thank you for always supporting us, myself and Jamila. This was our 72nd episode, and we're going on to the 73rd one next week. Anything you want to share there, Jamila?
Yes, just one more thing before we do close off. I did see that you mentioned that Dwayne has joined us, and just to wish him all the best today, because it's his launch, right, of his book.
Today is his launch of his book. He sent it to me last night. Yes.
So if you are still on, Dwayne, we wish you everything of the best. So proud of you, and may this be the first of many to come.
Oh, can't wait. He sent it to me. I'll send you the link to his book. And that's what this is all about, ladies. For those watching the replay, do share your comments with us. And if you want to get in touch with Sumaya, Anika, or any of us, just let us know via the LinkedIn original post or wherever else. Thank you. We're going to end the live stream right now. Jamila, as always, we keep our guests on for another 5 minutes for a quick debrief, and we'll see everyone next week. Bye for now.
Once again, thank you very much for the opportunity. Shukran.
Thank you. It's been our pleasure.